Marlon on the beat. Marlon on the beat. Marlon on the beat. Marlon on the beat.
You said you use the loop pad, right? Mm-hmm. I know you play. I don't even know all the instruments you play, because I know you play a plethora of instruments. I know off the top of my head, I know that I remember when you was when I was in school, you was playing the trumpet. You had just learned I think it was a trumpet you was playing.
Yeah, I had a brass methods course, so I was able to play a little bit of trumpet.
You
Haven't
had
really
that?
picked that back up.
No?
No.
No.
But
You don't like wind? I don't. I played one. I've tried to play a wind instrument because my friends they play it, but it's not really me.
It's not my speed either. They can all keep the band instruments. I'll just stick with all the ones with strings.
Yeah. They using they. My thing is they using their breath. You could we playing long piece because I played songs with them in high school. You probably remember Tavion. I used to bring him around a lot, but we'd play long pieces. And they're playing that. My fingers are hurting. So if my fingers are hurting, I know they lungs is killing them.
Yeah, right? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
But
I
forgot what I was about to say.
the instruments. I was telling
Yeah, the instruments that you was playing. When you use the loop pad, are you like using all of the instruments that you have to implement into your tracks, or
It's still a very baby phase for me. I'm still trying to just figure out the concept of when to push a button and like figure out how the memory tracking is. Like it's still I haven't pushed myself yet to get more involved in it to figure more of it out, but I see the concepts of it and I totally can. It's just a lot of it's all electronic based. So like I have a pickup mic on my violin, but I don't have a pickup mic yet for my cello or the viola and stuff like that. Like I was using for a while that app Acapella.
yeah?
So you could record yourself, videotape and record yourself playing, and like you have like 4 or 5 blocks of yourself.
Yeah.
And you can play along and create like in one thing. That was actually really kind of cool.
I remember. I think that was Triller that I know that for. I don't know that app, but I know exactly what you was talking about when you said, because my
But
teacher
then you
in
can
school
send it
used
to
use
people, and people can play along to your song. Again, it goes right back to the melody first, and then let everybody just trickle in.
Jump in, yep. Jump in. So everybody knows, how many instruments do you play?
Violin, viola, cello, bass. Now I have gotten good on the bass.
Nice. I didn't expect you to say bass.
Yeah, electric bass. A little bit on the upright bass, but that's just because I need to know that for school. Very little guitar and ukulele. I also have one of those box drums that I use sometimes. And I actually also do singing bowls.
Nice. So you just named about nine instruments.
8 or 9. And that's just what I can know off the top of my head. Like I can push notes through a flute. I can't tell you I can play from it, but I can try.
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole strings. I'm all strings.
That's crazy. That's crazy. 'Cause I don't. Out of all the teachers I've had, you play the most instruments.
Thank you.
You play the most instruments. I ain't never to balance it, because playing bass. All I know for real, I know bass.
Right.
Like.
And that's what I was violin for years. Like all the way up until I got the school job was when I actually had to teach like I said, I self-taught myself a lot of them. Violin obviously is just like yours. Like yours is the bass, mine's the violin. Like that will always be like the top notch.
Yeah.
That's why it's like I wouldn't want to go teach anywhere else, because this is just straight up instrumental. I can teach kids violin. Like I don't have to teach them anything else, but I definitely like violin's my top one. But I self-taught myself cello and viola. Like, I looked at this whole job and I was like, well, I'm going to have to learn how to teach this. So I have to go and sit down. Like, I can pull out some real basic piano keys, too. Funny part is, the ones that I've learned myself over the years by ear, you'd think I've been playing piano for, like, ages. It's weird. I don't know how it works out that way, but it's like one piece I taught myself when I was, like, 8. and it just always stuck with me. So when I played on the keys, everyone's like, "Oh, you play some great keyboard," and I'm like, "This is the only song you're gonna hear from me." Like everything else, I'll be like, "Dee dee 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 dee." Like it's so.
I don't know what's the name of the song. I can't remember who made it.
Beethoven.
Yeah.
Symphony.
I learned how to play that on the piano. I learned that.
Ode to Joy.
Yeah, Ode to Joy. I ended up learning how to play that.
That was actually our first song.
Yeah.
In the Fall Fest.
It was in the gym. In the gym. I remember that.
And we did two variations of it.
Mm-hmm. We did the slower version, right? We did the slow version and we
quarter
did
notes, and then we did eighth notes.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't even remember that.
It's funny because I had bought my own personal iPad a couple years ago, and I was just I guess I must have hooked it up to the school computer or something, because to this day I still have one of the very first things that uploaded to my personal iPad was the one year we were all in the gym, and we were I don't know, did you play Shake It Off with us?
Yeah.
And that I have that whole thing was like you and like Kareem, Belinda, all them.
Yeah,
they
everybody
were all,
was there.
Daniel,
Daniel,
all of us were all
Darius.
sitting in the gym. Percussion was behind us, and Miss Mac had the band in there too, and we were all together doing the one piece.
I remember that.
I have that video still to this day.
I got my report card that night.
Yeah.
I can't forget that day. But from Ode to Joy, when I ended up learning how to play that song, from there, I know the keys. So I don't know, like I can't go to a piano and press on and be like, yeah, that's C. Like just know, but I know where the keys start and I know where they end and I know when they restart. So from there, when I'm making beats and stuff like that, I just go based off of the notes that I know.
And you repeat them in like repetitive motions.
Yeah. Repetitive motions, slower, faster. Like a lot of the melodies, they be the same, but they sound different because of the way I'm trying to do it. I might change one note and throw a minor in there just to change it up, but
that's what I always tell my students. It's like, all you need to know is that all the music that you hear is based off of 7 notes. That's it. 7 notes out of all the genre, all the music that you hear in your lifetime, which you can't even play all the music in your lifetime. You can't. It's so much.
Too much. Too much.
There are musicians that actually just go in and focus just on one person, like one composer. Their entire life is like that's what they want. They want to know everything about Handel or everything about Bach, or like they want, or like I'm only gonna play like Bob Dylan, or I'm gonna only play like this person, and it's like it's just like wow, like you're gonna hone in just on one when there's like a billion different kinds of works that you could be working on. It's crazy.
So I know you also teach my sister currently, right? From teaching, I think after I graduated, you got her like the year after I graduated, or 2 years or something like that. I can't remember exactly how long.
Well, she was 2nd grade when you were 7th. So
about 3 years.
4 or 5. I think I was right before. Did you guys do 5th grade majors? Or were you still 6th grade majors only?
No, we did 5th grade majors.
5th grade majors.
We did 5th grade.
They were the year that we transitioned over to adding level 1 and level 2.
Yes, I remember because the day it was the once we did something that we wrote down about what major we wanted to do, and I remember that because that was I remember that was one of the last times I was in creative writing, and that's
time.
Yeah, that's why. Like, I was kind of sad because I really liked my creative writing teacher. I really did like her.
I know you did.
Because she was so positive. She could be mean at sometimes, but, well, I should say strict because...
Strict, yes.
Yeah, I should say that, but I really did like my creative writing teacher, and I was really sad that I was leaving her, but I knew orchestra was better for me.
So you ended up getting her when she was in 5th grade. What was the difference between teaching me and her? Because the way I gassed up her head, I gassed her head up a lot. So when she came into that class, she had high expectations.
I mean, that's how can I describe it? everyone's their own entity when it comes to how much you can gas up someone to do something or not. It also just comes down to their own personal character and their initial drive and want. So I kind of already felt, knowing I've had Harmony since 2nd grade and how she was working on her own self throughout class from 2nd grade to 5th grade. It was just kind of like one of those things where it's like, I didn't get a chance to do that with you. I didn't get to grow up with you enough to be able to just see that timeline as it progressed. Yeah. So, like I said, I tell all the teachers out there, it's like, the first year is going to be the roughest because, again, we go back to saying you don't have that rapport yet. You don't have that friendships. That's why, like, I in my first year, someone told me, they're like, don't smile. Don't tell them your name. Don't do this. Don't do that. I'm like, why? Because you're going to be walking out that door because these kids are going to eat you alive. Yeah. Like, if you're going to sit there and not smile, or you're going to be this hard ass, and you're going to be like, no. I'm not going to try to sit there and be a pushover anymore either. I mean, that was my problem. I was a little bit too lenient over the years. Too lenient. But
second
now
year,
it's like,
that was raps, though. You wasn't lenient in the second year.
No. But then I also, like, I was able to take it to make it into the fact of passion. Like, I mean, Harmony has heard me. I know you've heard me at some points. Back when we were together, like, in your 8th grade year, you probably could hear that, like, my ranting was not because I was just exerting what you guys were throwing at me anymore. I was like, that offensiveness, like, internal offense is not there anymore. Now it's like, I want you to do this because this is the passion I have. So I turn it so that it was like, oh, well, you can go ahead and take shots at me, but I'm doing this because I come to school every day. How many times have you heard that? I come to school every day. I'm here an hour before and an hour after y'all leave. I come in, I make all this stuff. I prep this room for you. I do this, I do that, I do blah, blah, blah. I write in your finger markings. I was like, all you have to do is show up.
I've heard that a bunch of times that I can't even count.
Like, it's someone from 2nd grade up, because I had to do it with the kids too, like the younger ones too. I was like, I don't need to be here. I was like, I don't have to be here. I have prereqs. I can go somewhere else. I was like, I want to be here. That makes a total difference. And some kids it sits in. Other kids, they're like, whatever, I'm just here to just get through. Like, hey, to each their own. But, I mean, that's why, like, both of you, it's like I just have more of a connection with, like, Harmony more than I was with you because of just the timing. Because it came late.
To be honest, you saying that you want to be there made me like you more. Even more than I did.
That's what I was about to lead to. So
because you're not, like, that's that personal trust of, like, okay, you're not just here to collect a paycheck. That's something I always tell any teacher. I'm like, if you're walking in here to collect a paycheck, get out. Just go. Because it's not worth your time. You're going to sit here or, like, I'm a very huge observer to begin with. That's just my nature. I like to sit back. I like to, like, assess the situations and then to decide whether or not, okay, is my 2 cents going to be worth it? Is it not going to be worth it? But, like, I see it over the years, even through any musicians in general, like, and in all senses, not just my career, but, like, also with, like, my musicianship. You see people on all different levels where you're just like, all right, well, you know what, maybe I can talk to you about one thing or two, but I'm not going to sit here and try to shove something down your throat if you're not going to take it from me. So, yeah, anyways.
Do you remember, like, it was my 8th grade year, I had signed up for a whole bunch of high schools that in reality those are not the schools that I should have signed up for, and those schools that I didn't want to go to. Do you remember telling my dad that, for one, I don't know if you remember referring me to String Theory. You had told me to go to String Theory.
I think it was a Christmas concert or something. I remember your dad came up and I was like, he's going to String Theory, right? Like, he's going. What? Yeah, he's
from go, there. Right? I remember that, and then I had picked the high schools, and I told you about the high schools that I picked. And you told me that none of those schools are gonna really do anything for me for the music, right? Because everybody knew at that point that music was what I was gonna stick with. So, do you remember telling me, like, basically giving me the rundown of how high school is gonna be with music?
Did it actually kind of fit?
Yeah. Okay, good. It went exactly how you told me. You told me I'm gonna get there. And since in my head, I felt like I was... big
man on campus.
Yeah. So when I got to there, I still had that persona. I still had that mentality. You told me that's gonna leave. That left within the first few days. That left. You told me that the music is gonna get realer from there, and I knew that, but I was thinking on a Musicopia level, and I wasn't even in the highest I could be in Musicopia. So I was expecting what I was expecting is not what it was, and you told me that, and it happened exactly how you told me. It was the craziest thing ever because I was like,
I'm glad it did happen that way. I've been like, oh, I gotta readjust what I say in the future. Like, yeah, it's true though, because that's exactly what happened to me. That's all my personal experience too. Like, you walk out of 8th grade, you think like, oh man, everyone's gonna be accepting of you. You're gonna be like, oh, this dude was like really big at this school, man. Like, watch out. Yeah. No, you get eaten alive.
They didn't even know about arts and sciences.
Yeah, I think when you go from like the smaller, like from like the even a smaller group of like kids, because like I went from elementary school. You had the kids that you knew from elementary school.
Yeah.
Then we had a 6th through 8th middle school. So from there, all the other elementary schools combined. So now you have all these new people, all these new friends. So like when you're young, you're kind of just like fitting in the process, finding who your cliques are, who you like, who you don't like. And then you get to 8th grade, you're like, all right, like, this is good. Like, we're on top of the world. I was, like, also the first 8th grade in this new building. So, like, we were, like, like, we were on top of the world. And then, like, I got to high school, but I already acted very mature. Like, I feel like sometimes, too, it depends on how the maturity levels are of students before they walk into freshman year. Because some might think that they're on top of the world. Or they're going to be, like, real scared, being like, oh, I'm going somewhere that I don't know if I'm going to be, like... You know, like those, like when the shows stereotype cliques, like the nerds or like the jocks and all this stuff, right?
That's very real.
It is real.
It's very real.
And it happens. It starts in middle school life. Who you hang out with and click with in middle school, that's when you start kind of like honing into your own identity. And then once you go to high school, that's when you're like, oh, how good can I network myself? Because all you want to do initially is attach to the older students, attach to the sophomores, or attached to a junior, attached to somebody, or like you see a lot of people that have siblings in the high school, and then you try to like go and hang out with them because then it kind of like gets you in those ends, right?
Yeah.
So you have all that going on, and then when you get to like 9th grade, you're like, oh,
it's not what I thought.
I don't know about this anymore.
Not what I thought.
Theory was the first. No, freshman year was when I started learning theory at all, like good theory.
I had that's when I started learning theory. But to this day, I don't like theory. I don't like theory class. I don't mind learning the
because you're by ear.
Exactly. I don't mind learning the
scales, all of that stuff.
But it's like we're not really playing anything, so it's like this is like a regular class to me.
What I found out is like if you sit in front of a keyboard and you putz around with a keyboard with that type of stuff, that got me. I was also extremely terrible with any form of the writing portion of theory. I got better once I went to college just because I had actually had people sit down and basically teach me piano between the professor and students that were like piano majors. So I had a lot of help from the piano majors to help me just see it more visually, because I sit there and like we had literally had measures, like probably about 4 or 5 measures long. You have both the treble and the bass clef, and the teacher wouldn't put anything down in the bass clef, or like parts of not with the treble clef. But theory has all those rules too, like you can't perfect fifths, or you can only use like a triad here and there or everywhere, like all that nonsense. So I would always have to sit down and be like, okay, what chords? I didn't know what chords were. Like I play a G, D, A, E on like a bow. That's our chords, like or double stops
in one motion.
Right. So then like that whole concept was new to me, and I was like, wow, like the music theory that we did back in high school for the 2 years I did it, it's like it was nothing compared to what I try to get them to do. We do worksheets, and like the kids like sit there, they're like, I need help, I need this, I need you to do this basically for me. I'm like, Harmony can tell you, over the years, my walls are now plastered with posters.
When I came back to see you, and I see Miss Mac, and
when I was picking her up. When I was in room 107.
Yeah. Oh, you switched rooms?
I got the big room now.
What?
Yeah.
That's nice.
Miss Mac gave me the biggin.
What?
But yeah,
Why
no,
you get the room
walls.
now? I was trying to get that room since.
Can I tell you how many years I was trying for that? Harmony's group was the first group that we moved in there with.
Same.
Because we had 1 year, their first year, we were still stuck in the little room. I'm like, if I'm going to have 35 some kids in here, I'm like, this room is too small. And I was like, we need the room. We need the space.
We was all complaining about this room is way too small for all of us to be in here.
That was since I was in that class. That's what we was.
We also didn't have a lot of students either.
Mm-hmm.
Like they went up. I got about 35 of them now in one group.
We had like 12, 13. Mm-hmm.
Which was fine for that, because the bases took up some space.
Yeah,
but
we was over by your desk.
I got rid of that.
You did?
I don't use a desk no more. I have the closet. That's my office.
I seen the violins in there too. Everything, that closet is full now. Full now. Before it was like the scrap closet. That's what I used to call it, because it had everything in there that was broken.
All the little baby violins that were broken. Yeah. Miss Mac and I cleaned that out, and she uses all her side over there for the kids.
So when I got to high school, and I was explaining to my teacher, Mr. Rosa, I was telling him that I wanted to be in advanced, because he had put me in general, right? I was explaining to him that where in my school where I came from, arts and sciences, I was always the top one, so it felt like a smack in the face.
Did you have oh God, what was your teacher's name?
Mr. Rosa.
Rosen.
I was telling him that I wanted to be in advance, and I was like, I felt like, cause you were my teacher, I had Mr. Bruce.
You felt like you had all the good things all down, ready to go.
I'm like, you looking past me? What's up? What's up with that?
The ego.
He taught me, basically. He was like, he taught me how to humble myself.
Yep.
So that's basically the same thing that you was telling me that was gonna happen, happened, and it happened so quick. So I was like, she knew exactly what she was talking about.
That was college for me. I went from being high school and being the top notch. Everyone knew me. I was the best violinist in the entire probably area, period. And I walked out of there. I was like, all right, cool. So I went to the community college, and then once I still had that, I had that ego for like 3 years. I was like, everybody wants me. Everyone wants to play violin. Who you want? Rachel plays violin. Okay, great. And then I got to Westchester, and I even had one of the teachers at Delaware County Community College. I even give me a mini grant to go there, because he's like, you're amazing. He's like, you're really good. So I'm good. All that time with that ego. Walked into Westchester, I felt like someone kicked me in my nuts.
Yeah.
Like literally,
Yeah.
I walked in, I went into my first violin music studio class, which was just like everyone plays what they were working on, and they critique kids, and it was. Well, I come out, I was like in tears. I was like, oh my God, I practiced so hard. I was like, they just tore me apart, tore me a new one, and I was just like, I walked out, I was like, I worked really hard on this. That humility sets in real quick.
It hurts you when they're younger than you, too. When they're younger than you. Because when I got to Musicopia, it was the same situation. Same situation.
Yeah, that humility is very important, but I know how breaking it feels. Because it makes you feel like, why am I even doing the questions start rolling around in your head.
I wanted to leave Musicopia. When that first happened, I wanted to leave Musicopia. I was like, nah, that's not.
But that's where you learn to take criticism differently. Because initially, like I said, I could sit there and be like, oh, you know what, that outfit you're wearing is dumb. You might sit there and be like, what are you talking to? I'm gonna come fight you now. But when you learn where they're like, oh well, no, you messed up in this measure and you have to do it this way, it's like, okay, that's when you start to learn to stop back and be like, okay, what did I do wrong? Okay, how am I gonna fix this? Someone's giving me an idea. Not saying oh, you suck, now you're gonna have to do it this way, but my teacher was relentless. Wonderful Juilliard teacher, and I had a lot of very, very good teachers in my upbringing, but she was the one that I watched people walk out in tears after their lesson. Grown college boys coming out of her lesson, and they're just like this, hiding their face, because they're just like, okay. I mean, unfortunately, we had literally half-hour lessons. That's all we had. That time we had in between that, it's like you had only half-hour lessons.
She was doing that within a half an hour?
The minute she tells you to come in and play, you had to have everything down. And she actually even wanted me to be a performing violinist there. But again, lots of things made me make poor decisions, and I ended up getting kicked out. So asked to leave because I couldn't keep up the grades. But she tried to keep me in there. So it's like, it's those harder teachers like that I have to give credit to other harder teachers. Like, I know my students are like, oh, I don't like this teacher, she's too harsh, or she mean, da-da-da. And I'm like, yeah, but they're also the ones that will create that humility and will set that into place so early. And I've noticed that too. I had teachers that were my very first violin teachers, the wife was so sweet, so nice. I could have been with her for the rest of my life. Like, she was just very gentle. She was kind. She was understanding. She went away to Beijing one summer during our vacay, and her husband, we like to call it, took me under his wing very quickly after that. Because, again, like I said, my abilities were getting really fast. So he took me in, and I never saw the light of day again. It was like I was in tears every lesson. He was so hard on me, but the hardness worked because obviously it created my abilities and stuff like that. Like, I was able to follow it. And growing up with a family, it says, do what you're told. Yeah. Like, that's you do not get away with that. It's like, oh no, it's not like, okay, honey, you don't have to do it today. No, my mom would be like, no, Mr. Sunset, do this. And you're going to do this right now. Like, or be like, well, obviously if you're crying, that means you didn't do something right, did you? And I was like, oh, like I had no support. I was like sitting there with no support. But they're also the ones that built that humility too. Where it's like, that's like those processes of gaining more like maturity when it comes to being a musician in general. Because I mean, you see those musicians out there that are real cocky, real egotistical. They're like, I'm the best thing in the world since sliced bread. And you're like, someone needs to kick him down somewhere, sometime. Not going to be me, but somebody will.
Coming up, so I think it was my second year in high school when I got to advance. I felt like that towards my stand partner, and then I realized that dang, he's actually is better than me. So I was like, I had to take that, because the stuff that my teacher, he's not really like talkative. He don't talk much.
And the competitiveness too.
Yeah.
That also goes into play, because I did not mention that either, but like competitiveness is always like that too.
I got my bravado from him. I learned how to do my bravado from watching him play. He was doing it. He was making the bass. I used to call it sing. I used to like, he made the bass sing, and I didn't know how to do that. So I watched him do that. I learned how to do that from him. And then once I learned everything, I was like, all right, now it's a competition, because I gotta be first. I gotta be the first in the thing.
I always tell people, and Harmony's group knows too. Like, when we've done, I didn't get to do it with your groups, but we did do it when I think it was when Harmony was in 5th or 6th grade. We finally went back to the competitions. And we did our first year competition was okay. But second one, the last one right before the year that you and Josiah got in a little bit of a trouble.
Oh, that.
Yeah. That year was when all those students learned what competitiveness was. And they obviously sat and watched all the rest of the groups, and they were like, whoa. And I'm like, now do you understand why I'm on top of you guys? Because you can be it. And that was the best that we sounded that year. That was with Shut Up and Dance. And it was definitely, one of those moments where it's like the kids realized, oh, wow, like we are actually not bad. We're actually pretty good.
I could say that Shut Up and Dance was one of my favorite pieces to play.
And the best that you guys played.
Yes, it was. It was.
That's where they got their confidence. Through that.
Yeah.
That's when we
y'all
got...
won? Did y'all win?
We did. We got, I think, excellent that year.
Yeah, we did. We did.
I think string theory as a whole, as a whole franchise, so that school, my school, when it comes to the competition things, we kind of have those under the bag. But that's that same year we had a competition too. When you guys went, we had a competition too. We had went to I think it was Six Flags or Dorney Park or something like that. We went there, and there was a school that went before us. We was right before them, and the song they was playing, they played the same exact song as us, right?
That's the worst.
They played
I've been there.
So we was like, okay, how are we gonna take our song and make it into something that's crazy? Because we had everybody, the beginners, general, and advanced. So it was like 4 basses, and every section was huge. So we just all played out crazy. When it was piano, it wasn't really
Brought all the
piano.
dynamics.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff too. Is like that's what I have. Well, I mean, middle school is just you're still kind of. So like in a high school setting, those conductors have you guys way more advanced, so that you can start looking into the dynamics, so changes and things like that, like the color of a piece, as opposed to just getting through it to get through it with the little kids.
Yeah. Playing dynamics is one of those things that was another problem for me, only because I was used to being by myself when I play, so I had to play out always. I had to play out always. So now I got a stand partner. Everybody get quiet, and I was the last one to get quiet because I'm not used to just jumping down. And I had to do that in 9th grade too, because I was the only bass in 9th grade. So now that I think about it, that's probably why he didn't move me up. That's probably why he didn't move me up.
Did you have issues with moving up in this orchestra too?
For the first year, yeah. My teacher basically told me, "No, you ain't ready."
All musicians have. Let me rephrase that. I was gonna say good, but like every like. I can't figure out a word, like an adjective to figure out how to explain it, but like for the ones that know how to listen, observe, and like obtain like everything around them when they're playing with a group, they tend to always leave them in the back. Always leave the good people in the back. They're like, okay, strong players is what they like to call it. Oh, a strong player, you can go to the back of the orchestra because you're going to project, and it's going to just make everybody else project. That was me all throughout high school.
I didn't like
Everyone
that.
always asked me, they're like, why are you not first chair? I was so close one year, I said I was second chair. I was almost the lead principal. But my last year was, and then also my teacher at the time, he was very like, just like very old school, where it's like, okay, seniors get first chair, like, okay, so then like it goes down the grades so that everyone can. I was building my way up very slowly. I got up there. He had kept me all through freshman year, and he also did. You guys ever done? What do you call them? Like placements, or like where you could like go and you can compete next to your stand partner to get their spots.
Yeah.
So like I tried doing that like all the time, and like we were using like old ass cassettes, like the cassette tape, and it's like it was beat. Like usually you'd go in, they would be sitting blind, and listen to whoever it is. Like this is 1, this is 2, who plays better, and then you would choose that way. He would always make us do it with cassette tapes. I'm like, these things are so old, from like the 80s. Like half the tape is worn away. Like, do you even hear me? Like, and he would always be like, oh well, yeah, I don't know whose is whose. I just choose them. I'm like, I'm sorry, but if my mom can sit in the far back of the auditorium and know exactly when I'm playing because she can hear my violin, I was like, you lying. You don't care. But yeah, I was in the back. And then my senior year, I was like, everyone was like, okay, we got this. I was like, Rachel, you're going to be first chair. You're going to be principal this year. And I was like, yeah. And I know I can't say it the way I want to say it because back in the day it wasn't considered racist, but I can't say it now. But, then there was this wonderful Asian girl came in and apparently whooped my butt in the auditions and apparently got my chair. But I have to say my band teacher with pit orchestra, that was a whole different world. I don't know if you were ever in like more than like one class or one group of things where you almost like gravitate more to one because you had more of a connection with one than the other. Like I just did orchestra because I had to. Like it was just like, oh, I'm a violin player, orchestra here, do it. But like pit orchestra was my place because it was legit. From like if I were in New York in a pit orchestra, it's the same music that they use. Like we don't shy away from it at all. We also didn't have to bring in professional players either. We all worked together as best as we could to make the tunes for the musicals. And we did like stuff like Rodgers and Hammerstein. Like we did like old school stuff that was like not easy because it was like a mixture of a jazz fusion based classicalness. Like it was all over the place. Like all handwritten too, where we're all looking at like, you know what this note is? Because that looks between a C or a B. I don't know. I can't tell. Like, so I remember like my senior year, and he was a very vocal teacher. Like he's very vocal. He will tell you straight up in front of everybody what he feels about you. Like he was that bold. But he's also like a band teacher, so like he's used to that.
The teacher, some music teachers are just
So I remember one time we were. I don't know whether if it was a run through or if it was the actual concert itself. But I remember we were at this part, and all I was doing, I was watching my cues. Like I was like next to her. She was like the principal, and I was next to her, and I was just like, I had this music down because we played it for so long. We played it for 3 months, like, and then we did run throughs and all this other stuff when going through the entire show. And I'm just sitting there looking at my conductor at that point. I'm like, okay, we're at this part, okay. Da-da-da. She was messing up, and he was like, she lost her place a few times, and like I'm sorry, when a conductor's sitting there going, where measure 19, like I feel terrible because I'm like, how did I get lost? Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Like I'm taking you away from what you're supposed to be doing right now. And I just remember at one point he was just like, just listen to her, and he pointed to me, and I was just like, see, I should have been principal this year. But then you get to learn as you get older, like when your ego can come out, when you can stroke it, when you put it away, and you be humble. Like that's just growing up.
You don't show off unless you have to.
Yeah, exactly.
I learned that over time because I felt like my dad said it best. Allen Iverson used to say this thing like practice. If someone asked me, he'd be like practice. That's how I was like. I felt like I practice. Why would I do that? I didn't have to do that. But then over time, it was like you learn that. Yeah, you're going to need some practice. You're going to have to do this. You're going to have to do that. So eventually.
And just because you get to a level 2, that if you stop, you're going to go back down.
Right back.
You're not going to be. I learned that. I used to play a lot of pool. So I used to work at a pool hall during college just to, get some extra cash. And I got really good for 2 years. Walked away from it, went to another job. And my friend was like, let's go play some pool someday. I was like, okay, great. Yeah. Let me go get my pool cues. Let me print all my stuff, right? They're like, oh, you're serious? I was like, oh, yeah. I was sitting here playing 9-ball games, like, back in the day. Like, I was doing competitions in 9-ball. Okay, great. Same concept, totally different thing, right?
Yeah.
And then I got in there and was like, all right, let's go. Got my butt whooped. And I was just like, how? I was really good. Like, literally a year ago, I was really good. And now I'm like, oh, maybe it's just a bad night. And I'm like, no. And so I was like, oh, it goes everywhere else with you, too. Not just music, but it goes everywhere else. Whatever you don't use, you got to come back down. Go back up.
Yep.
He doesn't understand the Allen Iverson concept. When I told him, but I had to explain to him. Iverson said, I mean, he's great. So ain't too much you could say about him, but he was still coming up, and I was trying to tell him, Iverson said that he didn't need to practice, and you're songing like Iverson right now. Go practice, hit your bass.
Yeah. There's a difference though with that too, because there's arrogancy, and sometimes some people are very arrogant about it. They're like, oh no, like I don't need this, and it's like, okay. But every time when people do that, you always eventually will see them trip and fall, and they fall on their face. So, yeah.
That was when I got to high school. So, this is the last 2 things I want to touch on. One, I don't know if you know, but I was like balancing in between not wanting to play music after high school and play music, because over time I ended up growing a love for it, but I didn't really want to continue it per se. You had spoke to my dad, and you was like to keep me into music, to just keep me into music, because you knew I had something with it. What made you tell me, Larry? What made you want me to keep doing it? Because I know you didn't have to. You could have just been like, well, that's his choice. That's
I say that to everybody. I mean, I see it in a couple different ways. I almost sophomore year of high school was really hard for me personally as a girl trying to be accepted in like a lot of different like levels of socializing and stuff. And I ran with a really crappy crowd. And I think this is one of the other reasons. I remember talking about some things with you and Carl back in the day, of just like how I can relate, but I can't talk to you about it. Like there was like those things where I'm like, I can't physically say this to you or I get in trouble. But, like, at the time, because you were also really young. But, like, I was following a really terrible crowd. And, I mean, I see it. I see it now all over across the board with all ages now, where it's like, oh, you see when people are starting to run with something, it's like, oh, there's something that's going to change up here. Like, or, yeah, that concept of not sure. And I remember I was just getting so tired of going to violin lessons. I was tired of getting I was tired of people telling me what to do. I was at that point at my age where I was like, okay, I'm old enough to make my choices. I wanted to be that person. I wanted to start making my choices, not be like my mom and dad told me I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do it this way, or go to school, you have to do a math problem this way. Like, it was just so much of demanding for me to do exactly to be in this little box, and I didn't want to be in the box anymore. So I stepped out of the box and started trying to do things on my own. And I remember, like, going up to my mom, and I was like, I'm done. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. She's like, but you've been doing this your whole life. I was like, I don't care. I was like, I don't want to do it anymore. Mom didn't give me no option. She's like, well, guess what? We're going to have this choice. She's like, you can tell me at senior year in high school if you want to stop. Then you can stop. She's like, no, you're doing this. But I feel like it was I don't know. My sister did the same thing, and she left it. My sister was she was, like, in 5th grade doing piano composition competitions with high schoolers. She could have been one of those girls that could have gone to Juilliard on a full ride scholarship on a keyboard, piano. Yeah. She's very performer. Like, my mom rode her tails all the way through, but then same thing. My sister got to the point where she was like, I'm tired of someone telling me what to do. I'm not your puppet. Like, I'm not going to do what you want me to do. Same thing, ends up just slicing and dicing the whole concept. I mean, she comes back and she can still play some bits and pieces. Yeah. But she didn't want to do that. She wanted to be completely different. And I mean, hey, well, to each their own with that one. But like, when you can hear, like, I had a babysitting job one time, and I babysat for this lady, and she drove me home like the next day because I had to stay over. Because back where I live, like, nobody, you went out to drink. There was no Ubers to take this kid home, like, you know, or like whatever. So I had to wait until the next day. And I remember driving home with her, and she asked me, like, what I just, I play violin. And I was like, I don't know about it. It was the same time frame. I was like, I don't know. I don't think I'm going to stick with it anymore. She's like, how long have you been playing? I was like, I've been playing since I was 8. She's like, really? And you don't want to do this no more? I was like, yeah. She's like, oh, well, that's a shame. She's like, I can't tell you how many people, and myself and included, you will never hear someone say, I'm happy that I quit. You'll never hear anyone ever say, I'm happy I quit the instrument or I quit music. Like, because it's not, there's no way. It's like embedded in our like DNA veins where it's like music will be somehow part of it, even if you're just going to be a listener. Yeah. So she was like, well, she's like, let me tell you. She's like, I could have been real good too. But she's like, I quit. I had a kid, and I'm now stuck as a hairdresser. Like, I think she was giving me that scare tactic back in the day. But she's like, well, if you want to be like me, go ahead and quit. She's like, but, you know, if you got potential, why would you waste it? Yeah. Why would you waste it? Or why not take it into a more advanced part? So I was like, all right, fine. And I went home. I was like, all right, Mom, I'll do it till senior year. I'll write it. I'll do whatever school wants me to do. I did kind of cut back on, like, lessons because the lessons were too serious. Like, they were just getting too much. And then I ended up doing that. And also, some teachers, I don't care what the heck anyone says. Some teachers are really weird. Yeah. They're very eccentric. Yeah. Like, I've had one once. He was also in that process too, where I was like, I'm out. Like, I'm not doing this with this guy no more. I'm like, this dude's weird. Especially being a girl too is a little bit different than like a guy going into a lesson setting. But either way, it just comes down to the point where it's like I was done, but then I was like, fine. Senior year came, and it's like, oh, what are you gonna do next? I was like, the only thing I know is violin. So I was like, I guess I'm gonna go to school for this now. But it literally did, because I kept going through. But then also, like, the social cues changed too. Like, as I got older, I was then starting to not be with those type of crowds anymore, and I was actually getting more of a positive reinforcement from other crowds of kids from school, and then starting to meet people out of school, out of high school. Like, when you get to that end of high school, it's like you start meeting adults. Yeah. Like, you start meeting people that are different levels of life. Like, they're not all from high school anymore. Like, you're not all in the same boat. It's like everyone's at different levels. And then that's that time when you start seeing, oh, all right, I'm here, but there are other people here and there and everywhere at all different levels, where it's like, okay, which direction do I want to go? Or like, do I want to try something new? Do I want to try something here and there? And that's when I started with the whole going to the coffee shops, going, and someone says, hey, you want to come jam? That was my Friday and Saturday nights if I wasn't doing like work. I would be going to my friends' houses or going to people's houses, and we would just all go jam. You know, like we'd take music and be like, hey, can you play this? And I'll be like, oh yeah, sure. And then from there, it just went on into that part. But yeah, that's I think every musician has one moment, even if it's young in life or older in life, that they get real close to losing it, and they don't want to do it. But that's why I was like, well, if I see someone that's truly at heart, like inside their blood, that's what they like to do. Like when people light up when you talk about it. Like if I were talking to music to somebody, like someone played, let's say like harmony. I'm not saying this would be harmony, but like if I said between you and harmony, like, oh, well, let's have a conversation about, music. Okay, what kind of music do you like? Blah, blah, blah. We could probably sit here and talk all day. Mm-hmm. Where harmony would be like, oh, I like this, I like that, I like this, I like that. So if you see that, like, I'm just using you this is not what you do, harmony, but I'm saying it as a differentiation, where it's like, yeah, I can have a conversation with harmony, but not really see that energy, like see that aura of like excitement and passion, where it's like, where with you it's always just like a, whoosh, oh, someone's talking about music, hey, I'm in this, like, because like I said, I can see a lot of people come and go, even just older people too. It's like, who's really invested, who's really in it and wants it to be their life, as opposed to someone that's like, oh, I just play. Mm-hmm. So that's where I was like, when I saw it, I was like, don't give up on this. Just don't give it up. Like, I even did that with some of the other, like, Denia too. This is the only thing. Comes back and says, still to this day, last couple months ago, when she came in to show off her diploma, she's like, I miss the violin. That girl gave me so much hell the first year.
Yeah,
My God. Her and I spat right across from the auditorium with each other. Her and Christelle and all these other people. I was like, oh, this is going to be a fun year. Like, but I took what I knew about her and how strong she was, because she had everyone else follow behind her. Yeah. That she became the leader. And that she took over after one of the other kids, I can't remember his name, left, and he was talently good, and so was she. She was coming up, and I was like, okay, Denia, this is your turn. This is your time. Show me what you got. Show me how you can how you can get all these people to do this. And that's what she comes back. That's exactly what she said to me when she came back. She's like, the first time after she graduated 8th grade and went to the military academy. Yeah. She was like, first of all, that whipped me into shape. It's like, yep. Yes, it does. And then she was like, I wouldn't have done this without you, because she was like, you showed me how to be a leader. Like, you made me. You gave me no choice. I had to become the leader. I was like, sometimes it just depends on who you are and what your life journey is taking you. And she's like, I miss it. She's like, I miss violin. I miss playing. Like, I'm like, then there you go. And that's my goal. And I said this to my mom all the last 7 years. I was like, Mom, if I can make 2, 3, 4, 5 kids out of each grade really appreciate and love their talent, I've done my job. So, yeah.
So the last thing, when I bring people on the show, I like to put them in a tough situation, right? So, out of all the songs you've played, out of all the pieces you've played, what is your top 5 favorite pieces?
Top 5 favorite pieces. That's like asking me like my top 5 favorite songs. Like, that's so hard. Well, I'll use my signature pieces, which is like the things I can always immediately go to. Is Meditation from Tice by Massenet. It's a slow piece. My Chartist from Monty. That's like one of my young acrobatical ones that I did when I was like in 8th grade. So, and then, I'm trying to think of like, what do I go to? What's my go-tos? I like a lot of some of my improvs that I do, like we're just listen to certain genres of music, but there's like no real top-notchers in there anywhere. Oh my gosh. I am just so eclectic that, like, for me it is so tough, but at least the top two would be meditation and Chartist.
Ain't nothing wrong with being your favorite. Ain't nothing wrong with being your favorite artist.
They're my go-tos. Like, if someone wants to know, like, how I play, they're the first two I'll play. Because it's something I also learned when I was younger, was that when, like, as time went on, like, getting ready to go to high school, from high school into college, one of my teachers once told me, they're like, you need two pieces. Mm-hmm. You need a slow one, and you need one that you can shine on. They're the two things that you would need, and the two that got me into Leicester University. Like, any college I had to go audition for, I played those two pieces because they were so contrasting enough that that's all they needed to hear. It's like, oh, she can jump through hoops on this one, and then she can be real soulful and beautiful on this one. Like, so I think they're like just the ones that I will always end up playing till I die. Like,
all right.
And thank you. I had to really think about that one because I was like, I love a lot of stuff. I love playing everything and anything, but they have to be probably the top two. So thanks.
Yep. All right. So coming to the end of the podcast. Like I said, this was one of the most anticipated podcasts that I was ready to film since since I had this idea. I know when I want to get you on here, this is going to be one of my favorite podcasts. I don't matter who comes after. I know that this is going to be my favorite podcast. So I appreciate you for coming.
It's been a pleasure. I love it because it's like I was always on your end. I was always you. Like, all my teachers, like, always was like, oh, I'd love to know and get to know more of these people on their own and like their own time. And like I'm now here. Mm-hmm. Now I'm at a level that I've never been at. I've never been asked all these questions, and I mean, I feel sitting here like I'm not that old, but dang, I feel old. I'm like, no, people are asking all these questions. But in a way, it's like I know I'm not there yet, but at the same time, it's like it's very nice because it just also shows me how much I've actually done for everybody. Just like how important I am to not just my friends and my family, but to my students, to kids, to the world. That's my thing. I always said to myself, I was like, I want to share everything with the universe. I want to share everything with everybody because you never know who's going to want to take that and ride with it.
Yep.
Always a teacher for life. Teacher for life.
All right, so Apple Podcasts, Google Play, rate 5 stars. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. YouTube, leave a like, comment, subscribe. Special word for this video. Comment down Violin. Everyone that comment down Violin, I know that you watched the full video, so I appreciate you. We have H Money on the board working sound today. Harmony, I appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for tuning in to On the Come Up. Like I said, soon to be the best music podcast coming out. Soon to expand and get everything way better than how we already have it. So I appreciate you guys for watching the video. Like, comment, subscribe, and we're out. Peace.